Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well, and I do apologize for the delay in videos. However, sometimes you can't control what happens in life, and a family member passed away, so I had to attend a funeral. On a lighter note, also celebrated my daughter's birthday, which was super fun. And then Monday, I decided to watch the Oilers game, which unfortunately they lost, so no Canadian team's going to win the Stanley Cup this year. However, I was also keeping an eye on the by-election in Toronto for the riding of St. Paul. Now, I'm sure past few days you've been hearing about this in the media, how this is the Liberal stronghold. They've controlled this riding for over 30 years. And the Conservative candidate, Don Stewart, won that riding on Monday by about 600-ish votes. And this has now become a huge upset for the Liberals because the media has talked about how this is basically the Liberals' strongest riding in all of Canada. And as we get into this interview with Vassy interviewing Minister Gould, she basically says, if you guys can't even hold on to this riding, what makes you think you're going to hold on to any other riding? And doesn't this mean that you should get rid of Trudeau?
Message are Liberals taking from the loss? Minister Karina Gould is the party's Ontario campaign co-chair. Hi, Minister. Good to see you again. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Vassy.
Minister, should the Prime Minister resign as leader of your party?
No.
Why not?
Well, look, I mean, yes, yesterday was definitely a tough loss for us as Liberals. I mean, we certainly didn't expect to lose in Toronto St. Paul's. I should start by congratulating Mr. Stewart on his win. He obviously worked very hard, and thanking Leslie Church, our fantastic candidate who ran an excellent campaign. But you know, it was a message for us, certainly, that we need to do better, that we need to listen more closely to what the voters, not just in Toronto St. Paul's, but right across the country are telling us. But no, I don't think it means that the Prime Minister needs to resign.
And I'll ask you about that message in a moment. But what we heard from people who were canvassing the riding is very specifically their criticism of the Prime Minister himself, that they might even agree with some of the policies that your government has put forward, but that they are uncomfortable with the Prime Minister in his position or as leader of your party. Why is that not something that prompts a second look at his leadership?
Now, we're not even a minute into this interview, and Karina Gould's already lying through her teeth about how this is the message that the Liberals needed so that they can start listening to Canadians. When not too long ago, earlier this year, we had one of the biggest petitions signed, put forward into the House as a vote for no confidence in the Liberal government. Over 400,000 individuals signed this petition. And what did the Liberals do about that? Absolutely nothing. When the Conservatives have put forward the suggestion of a carbon tax election so that the Canadian people can vote and see who they would like in the government controlling this thing, they decided to vote that down because, again, they are not listening to Canadians. So it's very disingenuous of Karina Gould to say that, even though this is a talking point she's going to have throughout this whole interview, so just get prepared. But in regards to a petition, there actually has been another petition put forward by one of the Freedom Convoy representatives, and this is what she said.
In a recent statement, Justin Trudeau had said, "Canadians aren't ready for an election." However, according to Abacus data, the Liberals are polling at only 24%, significantly trailing behind other parties. Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party continue to be brought forward on several ongoing ethics investigations and concerns. And Canadians have lost confidence and trust in Justin Trudeau and the Liberal NDP government's ability to govern Canada responsibly and to show equality to all Canadians. Petition E5024 is your way to tell them just how ready you are for an election. This ends when the people say it does. Let's show the world what democracy truly means. Together, united, and unwavering in our belief that every voice counts.
Now, it'll be very interesting to see how big this petition gets. So if you do want to support it, I might have a link down below, or I'm sure you could just Google it. But as we get back into the interview with Vassy, she posed a very good question. Yeah, a lot of people like your policies, but they don't like that Trudeau is tied to the Liberal government, so they probably won't vote for you guys. And this is what she had to say.
Well, so first of all, I mean, the policies and the programs that we've put forward are policies and programs that wouldn't have happened had he not been prime minister. A lot of this is his leadership in pushing these things forward. I obviously have a personal affection for childcare, having been the Minister of Families, but again, like that wouldn't have happened had Justin Trudeau not been prime minister. So it's hard to disentangle, I think, his role as leader of the party from what we've actually been able to achieve for Canadians. The other thing that I would say is that, we understand and I think have been seeing, Canadians rightfully and understandably frustrated, particularly when it comes to inflation and the high cost of, kind of everything. And we've been responding to what those issues are. But I think what the message from Toronto St. Paul's was in particular for us was that, we need to do a better job of not just listening, but also showing Canadians that we are hearing them. I think that's a really important thing too.
I think that just to circle back to the point about the Prime Minister, I mean, and his, sort of the way in which, in your view, he's so correlated with everything that your government has put on the table. Think about daycare for a second. I mean, ultimately, what you said to Canadians is if you elect Conservatives, that will be removed as an option for you, that the programs we've put in place will be removed. If the Prime Minister, everything okay?
Sorry, my battery died.
That's
Sorry.
Okay, go for it. That's okay, that's TV. If the Prime Minister's leadership of your party ultimately costs you the way it did in this by-election, it won't really matter what kind of programs then that you have put. Like his leadership ultimately, even if it did bring in these programs, might jeopardize them in the future. Why are you and your fellow caucus members unwilling to confront that?
Well, I mean, a Conservative government ultimately is what would jeopardize these programs. I mean, we know for a fact that they have said that they would undo things like dental care or childcare.
But then wouldn't losing the election do that too?
It's absolutely mind-blowing the mental gymnastics these Liberals go through to throw it all on the Conservative when Vassy is giving her the playbook saying, some people like your policies, but they don't like that Trudeau is tied to your party. So maybe get rid of him and the Liberals might have a chance in the election. And she's saying, well, the Conservatives, they would get rid of the programs. Yeah, most likely. But if you do want to stay in power, well, then you might want to get rid of Trudeau so that your party's more likable and people potentially could vote for them. Now, as we've discussed, at this point, I highly doubt that's even possible, no matter who you substitute in. Steve McKinnon, Dominic LeBlanc, Chrystia Freeland, Gould here, Anita Anand. You go down the list, Jenna Suds, nobody would be suitable enough for people to now be like, yeah, let's vote Liberal. But Vassy's trying to point out that this is their slight chance of potentially staying in power. And she just says, we're going to go back out there and try to win the people over and take this loss as the message that it is. And Vassy just says, yeah, it's a pretty big message.
But other things that Canadians care about a lot as well. I think when it comes to a by-election, it's an opportunity for Canadians to send a government a message. What we have to do is be humble about it, I think, and listen to that message. There's going to be lots of conversations that happen over the course of this summer amongst caucus about how we reflect on the results from yesterday. It's a bit early to say, what we're going to do because we just got the results early this morning. But it's going to be important for caucus members to get out, talk to their communities, talk to their constituents, hear what they have to say, and then for us to come back and, really think about what our plan is moving forward. As well as I do that, the election is 16 months away and that's a lifetime in politics. Many different things can happen. And so we need to regroup, really make sure that we heard that message, and find the way to reconnect with Canadians over the next 16 months.
Is the message, though, given the riding that it took place in, and the stronghold that your party has had, even in the worst of times in 2011 for the Liberals, is the message not a deafening one that you're on the wrong track?
Well, it's certainly an important one, and I, take that very seriously. And I think everybody in Liberal circles is taking that message really seriously today. We didn't expect, if I'm being honest, to not hold that seat. We certainly thought we would, even if it was a tight race, and it was a tight race. I mean, the difference was, just over 500 votes, so that's a very tight race. But what it means is that, we've got to pay attention to what those 500 folks were talking about, and that are priorities for them. So there's a clear message in there that, we need to do better. We need to listen and hear Canadians, and we need to demonstrate that we're hearing them through the policies and the actions, and the messages that we're sharing back with Canadians. So, I take this very seriously, and there's going to be, lots of thinking and reflecting that's going to happen over the next, weeks and months.
Does that mean, in particular, when it comes to addressing the affordability crisis or cost of living crisis, that your government will chart a different path, or more largely on the economy? I take your point, it was close, it was 500 votes, but it's a 24-point swing from the last election. And by the way, Carolyn Bennett won 9 of them in a row.
Vassy's the absolute best. She's literally just throwing salt on that wound and digging it in. And Karina Gould's response to this question is, well, we're going to be parsing through the results and taking a look at where we went wrong. It's like, what are you going to be parsing through? The people have spoken. The polls show it. You guys have one of the lowest polling for the Liberals. Now you lost one of the strongest ridings of over 30 years as the Liberals in power. I don't know what you're parsing through. The evidence is right there. You guys are doing a crap job. The people are letting you know, and you need to get out. But again, this is her response.
Well, I think so again, we still have to, parse through the results. It's, again, not even 24 hours after we've gotten the results. So there's going to be lots of analysis that happens, and lots of thinking and lots of reflecting. I mean, I think, speaking certainly with the candidate herself, and, her experience will be really important for us to absorb and understand, what went wrong specifically in Toronto, St. Paul's, but also, how we can learn those lessons across Toronto, across GTA, across Ontario, and across Canada, and make sure that those reflections are demonstrated in our actions moving forward.
The Deputy Prime Minister yesterday, in advance of the votes being cast, said essentially that the Canadians in that riding had a choice between the Liberals and the alternative, which she characterized as cold, cruel, and small. Why would your government label opponents of it like that?
No, I'm very happy that Vassy posed this question, because when I heard Christia say this, I thought, well, aren't you the guys who are always saying that the Conservatives are trying to divide the country? They're trying to put out this propaganda, right-wing talking points, fear-mongering, yada yada, when that's what you guys have been doing for I don't know how many months now. And if you missed what Vassy's talking about, here's the clip of that.
Vision, that's the Liberal vision. That's why I'm really calling on the people of St. Paul's to go out there and vote for her, because the alternative is really cold and cruel and small. The alternative is cuts and austerity, not believing in ourselves as a country, not believing in our communities and in our neighbors.
And this is just clearly a pure contradiction to what Karina Gould is saying here. And Vassy is going to point this out, because they say that they are going to be listening to the message that Canadians have basically told them with this by-election, yet majority of people who are going to be voting are looking like voting Conservative, and Chrystia Freeland is painting them as cold, cruel, and small individuals because they wouldn't be voting Liberal. Well, let's listen to Karina Gould to defend this.
Well, I'm not going to speak for the Deputy Prime Minister, but what I can say is that I think there is a very stark difference between the vision that our government is putting forward for Canada and that of the Conservatives. And I think our government has been very clear and have won 3 elections on being ambitious and proud of Canada and wanting to do new programs and support Canadians and really deliver for them, and we have good results to show for it, whereas Mr. Poilievre and the Conservatives are putting forward a vision that is less ambitious. It's one that is less generous when it comes to supporting Canadians, and one that I don't think has the same kind of, support for the future of our country. So there are 2 different visions that are being put forward that Canadians can choose from and will choose from in the upcoming election. I think it's really important that we continue to demonstrate to Canadians that their well-being economically, socially, physically, is our priority, and that we are there to continue to serve them. I think we continue to have big, bold ideas that are going to deliver for Canadians, but part of our job is to make sure that we are hearing what those priorities are for Canadians and reflecting that as a government. And so, yesterday's results gives us pause to think about, are we listening, engaging, and communicating in a way that is responding to the needs of Canadians? Maybe it's some of those things, maybe it's not all of those things, but it's certainly a moment for us as Liberals, as Liberal members of Parliament, as Liberal government, to reflect and think about how we move forward and where and what we need to change.
Can you understand how Canadians might find that disingenuous? Yesterday, your government is calling people who supported somebody else cold, cruel, and small. And today you want to engage and listen to them. Do you understand how that might fall on deaf ears?
So, I have always been very clear about the fact that we need to engage with all Canadians. I mean, the fact of the matter is, and you can go back to 2015 when the Prime Minister was very clear that, just because you vote for somebody else doesn't mean that you don't have the best interests of Canada in mind. I mean,
then why is your party calling them cold, cruel, and small?
Yes, why indeed? Because we have Ms. Gould here trying to paint him like the Prime Minister of the people, but he doesn't even act like the Prime Minister of Canada. He acts like the Prime Minister of the Liberals. And if you're a conservative or you don't vote Liberal or have different views than a Liberal, he basically others you and attacks you with ad hominems like MAGA conservatives, far right, Nazis, conspiracy theorists. And this is not what the Prime Minister of Canada should be doing. Obviously, he's not going to be able to please everybody, but he should be coming up with policies that kind of harmonize or bring us closer together to a certain degree. But this isn't just something we're seeing in Canada. If you look across the globe, you got Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, Finland, Sweden, the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Spain, Greece, Italy, Portugal, most likely the US. It's looking like Canada too. All of them have gone conservative or are going to be going conservative because they're tired of all this liberal socialist garbage. Yet, even with all of that information, all of this messaging that Ms. Gould says they're receiving, she still basically, in this next little clip, claims that people who don't think like liberals are wrong.
But this is where I think it's important for us to reflect on some of those lessons and to make sure that we're being true to who we are as Liberals, which I really believe is engaging and listening to Canadians, to always seeing Canadians in a positive light, that may mean that they vote for other folks, that they vote for us. But at the end of the day, and one of the things that I've always admired about the Prime Minister is his trust in Canadians. And I have tremendous trust in Canadians to make, the best decision. And, at the end of the day, would I have liked to see a different result in Toronto St. Paul's? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have preferred for that to remain Liberal. But this is a message for us, and it's now our job to listen to it and to change our behavior accordingly.
So just to be clear, you don't believe people who voted for the Conservatives in this election are cold, cruel, or small?
No, I do not believe that. I believe that Canadians make decisions based on, the best information that they have. And I genuinely believe that every Canadian is making a decision because they believe that they're doing it in the best interests of Canada. They just have a different idea of how to get there.
Now, it could just be me, but when I heard the statement of her saying Canadians make decisions off of the best information that they have, it sounded like she was saying on the limited information that they have, and that they don't understand what the Liberals are trying to do. So that's why they're now switching to the Conservatives and just voting for them. Again, it could just be me, but as always, I'd love to hear from you guys. So let me know in the comment section below what you thought about what she said. I really do appreciate all the support that's been coming in over the past few days, even though I've been off. So thank you so much for that. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.